What if the biggest opportunity of your life is sitting right in front of you right now? What if fear is not protecting you, but quietly trapping you? And what if one small decision could completely change the person you become? This is the story of Caleb. Caleb was 32 years old. He worked at a furniture warehouse on the edge of a quiet town. The job paid enough to survive, not enough to dream. Every morning he woke up before sunrise. Cold coffee, heavy boxes, long shifts, then home. Same road, same routine, same silence. People around him thought he was responsible, hardworking, reliable. And they were right, but there was something nobody knew about Caleb. He carried regret everywhere he went. Years ago, Caleb wanted to become a photographer. Not famous, not rich, he just loved capturing moments. Sunsets, empty streets, human emotions, things most people ignored. When he held a camera, he felt alive. But life happened. Bills came, his father got sick, responsibilities grew heavier. So Caleb made the safe choice. He gave up the dream. At first, he told himself it was temporary. I'll come back to it someday. But someday slowly turned into years. And over time, the camera collected dust in a closet, just like his dreams. One evening after work, Caleb sat alone in his apartment. The television was on, but he wasn't watching it. His eyes looked tired, not from work, from repetition. He stood up quietly and opened an old closet. Inside was a small black camera bag. He stared at it for a long time. Then, slowly, he picked it up. Dust covered the top. His hands paused for a second, almost like he was touching a different version of himself. He opened the bag carefully. The camera was still there, old, slightly scratched, but real. And suddenly memories came rushing back. The excitement, the passion, the feeling of purpose. For the first time in years, Caleb smiled. A small smile, but real. Then reality hit him again. You're too old now. You missed your chance. People already succeeded years ago. The smile disappeared, and slowly he placed the camera back into the closet, closed the door, and walked away. But something inside him stayed awake that night. The next morning, Caleb couldn't stop thinking about that camera. Even at work, his mind drifted. He looked around the warehouse. Everyone looked exhausted, moving without energy, surviving. And suddenly, a scary thought entered his mind. What if this becomes my entire life? That thought followed him home for days, then weeks. It stayed in his head while eating, while working, while trying to sleep, and slowly it became impossible to ignore. One rainy evening, Caleb sat near his apartment window watching water slide down the glass. The city lights looked blurry through the rain, and for the first time, he admitted something painful to himself. He wasn't unhappy because of hard work. He was unhappy because he abandoned something that mattered to him. That truth hurt, because deep down, he knew it was real. A few days later, something unexpected happened. At work, a younger coworker named Liam showed Caleb some photos on his phone. Beautiful street photography, raw emotions, real moments. Caleb looked surprised. "You took these?" he asked. Liam smiled proudly. "Yeah, I started learning last year." Caleb stayed quiet. Then Liam asked, "What about you? Ever tried photography?" For a second, Caleb almost said no, but then he answered honestly, "Years ago." Liam looked confused. "So why did you stop?" Caleb opened his mouth, then closed it again, because he didn't actually have an answer anymore. Fear? Responsibility? Doubt? Maybe all of it. That conversation stayed with him, and that night, Caleb opened the closet again, but this time, he didn't put the camera back. The next morning, Caleb woke up earlier than usual. Before work, he walked through the city with the camera in his hands. At first, it felt strange, awkward, like returning to a place you no longer belong. But then he saw something. An old man feeding birds under soft morning light. Without thinking, Caleb lifted the camera. Click. One photo. And something happened inside him. A feeling he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not excitement, not success. Peace. For the first time in a long time, his mind became quiet. That morning changed him, not because his life magically improved, but because he remembered who he was. Days turned into weeks. Caleb started taking photos every morning before work. The streets, the rain, the people. Simple moments, but meaningful ones. At night, he watched videos online and learned again. Slowly, his skills improved, but the biggest battle wasn't learning photography. It was fighting the voice inside his head. You're wasting time. It's too late. No one cares. Some days that voice almost won. Some mornings Caleb stared at the camera and felt foolish, but he kept going anyway, because something inside him understood an important truth. Regret hurts more than failure. Then, another. One weekend, Liam convinced Caleb to post some of his photos online. Caleb resisted at first. "What's the point?" he said. But eventually, he agreed. That night, he uploaded 3 photos, then waited. Minutes passed. Nothing. Hours passed. Still nothing. Old doubts returned immediately. See, nobody cares. He almost deleted the post. But before he could, a notification appeared. Then another. Then another. People started commenting. "These feel real. You captured emotion perfectly. Your work made me stop scrolling." Caleb stared at the screen quietly. Not because he became famous overnight, but because for the first time in years, something he created touched another human being. And in that moment, he realized something powerful. It was never really about success. It was about expression, about feeling alive again. Months later, Caleb's life still wasn't perfect. He still worked at the warehouse, still paid bills, still faced difficult days. But something inside him had changed completely. He no longer felt trapped, because every morning he gave time to something that made him feel human. Eventually, small opportunities appeared. Local people asked for portraits. Small businesses asked for photos. Nothing huge, but enough to remind him that growth begins small. And slowly, Caleb stopped seeing himself as too late, because he finally understood something most people never do. It is never too late to reconnect with yourself. Now let me ask you something. What dream have you locked away inside your own closet? What part of yourself have you abandoned just because life became difficult? Listen carefully. You are not too old. You are not too late. And your dream is not foolish. The world teaches people to survive, but very few people truly live, because living takes courage. The courage to begin again. The courage to fail. The courage to believe that your passion still matters. And maybe you don't need to change your whole life overnight. Maybe you just need to open the door you stopped opening years ago. One small step can wake up a sleeping part of your soul. So take the camera out again. Write again. Sing again. Try again. Because one day you will either face the pain of starting or the pain of wondering what could have happened if you did. And trust me, the second pain lasts much longer. Thanks for watching.